Good morning, everyone. It is, as you. This is actually insane. Like it was winter yesterday, and today it's not winter anymore. And as I said, like snow in Sweden means that it snows for one day and then everything rains away. But still, I am here in my winter coat, and today you and I am going to talk about, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about system level languages and why I think that you should have a serious think about working in you don't have to work in a system level language, but you should absolutely have a look at them. I think that it's actually kind of funny because it's like we're going full circle. It's like we are at, I feel that way anyway. If you look at everything that is happening in development today, I feel like as everything has been building up to what's happening right now. And what I mean by that is basically that if you look back, like let's say 20, 30 years or something like that, back in the days where before we had like popularized JavaScript and like we had all this massive diversity in our programming and so forth, we only had a handful of languages that were used for basically everything. And you could argue that that's the case today, even though we have a more diverse environment. But I would say that there was a time where system level languages was that was the way you program. You didn't have the concept so much, at least, of having different languages that had different strengths and weaknesses and so forth. You had like one language. Now I'm thinking like for this conversation of ours, this is going to mainly focus on C and C++ because those are the ones that I'm most familiar with. And C and C++, these old-time languages have been around since it all started. I'm not, I can't give you the exact date when they were developed because I don't actually remember. I did read it on Wikipedia, if that helps. But anyway, these languages are, for better or for worse, they're still around, and a lot of different languages are based on the technology that they basically are made from. So take JavaScript, for example. It's built like JavaScript is running on C and C, like on C++, I think. And the engine and the V8 engine, for example, like these, and the browsers that you're using, a lot of these different extremely well designed technologies are based on these languages. And how cool is that? Like, honest to God, like how cool is it to have a language that is so old and so powerful that everybody else tries to basically copy what you did. Yeah, C++ and C and so forth. Like they were using memory pointers before it was cool, because they actually were. And now we are entering, I think, a new phase. So if we go back like just 2 years, let's say 2 years, the trendiest thing in the world was microservices. That was the trend thing in software development, alongside maybe with agile development. But today, people are getting bored. And trust me, if you spend enough time in development, you will learn that people are not rational, they're not logical, or rather, the developers are not rational and logical people. Or rather, they want you to believe they are, but not so much. Like people are very emotional. This idea of, that developers are just data driven and that they never make emotional decisions is just bull. It's bull, absolutely bull. Most people I see who pick up tech stack or like do a rewrite of a code base or something like that, they do that because they like they have a tool that they like more, or like in their head does more for them than another tool, and so they switch, even though it comes at a great cost to the project. So that just a few years ago, when microservices was the thing, and if you go even further back than that, I would argue that the biggest trend thing was like JavaScript driven like SPAs, single page applications like Angular and all that stuff. That was a few years back. They kind of came very closely together there. Today, right now, I think that the most trendy thing that at least Google is pushing is the idea of offline first and like performance and progressive web applications and stuff like that. That's the absolute most trendy thing. But what's coming up is something that excites me much more. And that is what Rust and Go are bringing to the table. Now, I know that Google is one of the best, if not the best IT company in the world when it comes to pushing a trend. They were one of the main contributors to the trend of microservices, the trend of Angular. Like, all of these successes come from how amazing Google is at selling the IT world their ideas. I'm not saying just Google, but they are really good at that. And Mozilla is also amazing at, if Google is the best, I would say Mozilla is the second best at this. And these two giants are behind Rust and Go. And in my opinion, what's the main thing about Rust and Go? Well, they are system level languages. And why is this exciting? Well, this is exciting because these are modern versions, or if you will, of C and C++, of system level languages. They are nicer, but they have the same power. And what's exciting about that is that for the very first time, we have we are entering potentially entering an era where might go back to running everything on system level languages. We might actually go back there, and I'm actually curious if that's something that won't actually stick. And just hear me out on this. Yeah, I know it sounds insane because change is the only constant, right? But think about it. The main reason why in my opinion, why C and C++ aren't as popular today as they were back in the day was because back in the day they were the only real, one of the few options. Today, and they didn't really get all that love and maintenance and community around them as other languages got. But Go and Rust, since then, I would like to think that the IT world has learned how important community is for the health of a language. Just look at Ruby, for example, and that means that if Go and Rust ever get that type of popularity that basically that they're getting that traction right now, if that community is well maintained, you will have a system level language which has all the niceties of modern development, and that will put you in a basically that puts us in a situation where at least I will ask, why would I use anything else? I have a system level language with the power and flexibility and the accessibility of a modern day, basically, I mean, for me, working in Go and working in JavaScript are it's not the exact same thing, but they're almost the same thing. And with that type of accessibility and the power of a system level language, you can do anything, virtually anything you want. And I think that's very exciting. I think it's really cool that we might actually see system level languages coming back into mainstream programming, and they are already in a small way, but I want to see that big boom. I want to see people go absolutely crazy for these languages, because trust me, this is powerful. This is really, really powerful. A lot of very, very, very powerful applications and basically things you would like to be able to do is all possible through system level languages in a way that is not possible in other languages. So think about that. Imagine having, because C and C++, if you want to do absolutely anything today, be able to build anything, make absolutely anything, C and C++ are your go-tos. Until now, that used to be the case, until now, because now you have Go and Rust, which are even nicer and are, I would like to think of it this way. React brought or popularized Haskell and these older languages, really embedded the idea of functional programming. React popularized it. C and C++ were the languages who brought us system level programming in a nicely packaged experience. But I think that Go and Rust are the ones who are going to popularize it, and that makes me very excited.